Hey guys, welcome to the iVolunteer podcast where we talk about social good and bayanihan in the Philippines. I'm Carlo.
Hi, I'm JB. Again, will be your host for this podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, a pillar and co-founder of iVolunteer. Let's all welcome Mr. Bell.
All right. Hey Bell, what's up? Glad to have you
Hi,
here.
doing good.
All right, all right.
Thanks for having me here.
Okay. So, before we start, let's blaze on through the good news because this is what we are about. We're going to talk about the good news in the Philippines. JB, what's yours?
Have you guys been to Bohol?
No, no, I haven't.
Yeah. In Bohol, there's a very famous hanging bridge. Lagi itong pinupuntahan ng mga tao. It's named the Tikbao Hanging Bridge. It's found in the Lobok River. Recently, with CNN Travel, they've named this Tigbao Hanging Bridge as one of the world's most spectacular footbridges.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, more
Yeah,
tourist spots.
it's in recognition of the resourcefulness of the Filipinos to create a footbridge using a bamboos. Used to be yung dati yung tali niya, it was made out of a simple rope, but ngayon they've also level it up by using some steel cables. It's a very, very nice view. And nakakatakot din siya. It's very long. It's about 100 meters long, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're kind of adventurous, you can try that.
I
Very,
won't. That's scary.
very nice bridge. Hanging bridge.
Okay. Ako naman, JB, may good
Yun ang
news.
aking good news. Kasi recognition for the kagalingan ng mga Pinoy, di ba?
Alright, awesome. Talk about Filipino ingenuity.
Okay.
Ako, may good news. Ayun. Ang good news ko ngayon is if you guys have heard of yung MMDA officer na nagbebenta ng kakanin. So, he went viral and that's good news in and of itself because it shows na meron tayo mga MMDA officers, mga public officials na gumagawa ng who are making money in an honorable way and di sila nangungurakot or anything. The good news is for Mr. Fernando Gonzalez. I think that's his name, yung MMDA officer.
Teka,
Uh,
Carlo,
aha.
kamag-anak mo ba yan?
No, hindi ko, no. I wish. Pero the good news is he's going to be promoted. I don't know what the position is, pero he's being considered for reconsideration. And they checked on what he's doing. Hindi niya ginagawa to during his work hours. So that's very admirable, Mr. Gonzalez. I salute you and every other public official who is like him. Gosh, I wish all of the public officials are like him indeed. Okay, so let's move on to our topic now, shall we, JP? Our topic for today was supposed to be um, the benefits of volunteering, but we decided to change that because there is a more fitting topic, which is commemorating Yolanda. A year ago, Yolanda hit us. A year ago from now, it's the first week of November. Yolanda hit us, and it was a very there was worldwide news coverage. It was a very tragic event or disaster during those times. And we're going to talk about that in a bit. But before we get to the nitty gritty of that specific topic, let's get to know more about Belle. Who are you, Belle? Why are you here?
At nga ba?
Why am I here?
To all your millions of viewers,
We
let
have
me introduce
fans.
myself. Okay, so I'm a native of Davao. So I'm actually from iVolunteer, right? So as what Carlo and JB said, I'm part of iVolunteer. I'm a native of Davao, so I moved here in Manila when I started to study in college, and then I'm still here working for a multinational FMCG company as an IT professional. So that's my day job, but my real passion is really for volunteering, and that's why I'm with these guys in iVolunteer.
Alright, that's
So
great.
matanong kita, Ben. Paano ka ba napasok sa volunteering?
Ano nga ba? Mabait talaga kasi akong tao eh. So,
Hey, works for me,
hindi.
man!
Hindi, to be honest, medyo self-serving. So, nakwento ko to some of you, in high school, medyo competitive ako. So, I said to myself, mga grade 6, sabi ko, by fourth year high school, I will be the school president. So, sabi ko, and I promised myself I will be the school president. So
Student
from
council president, you mean?
ano?
Student council.
Student council president. So the school student council president, yes. So from first year until fourth year, medyo trapo ako, traditional politician. So I was in student government from first year until fourth year. So with that 4 years in high school, medyo exposed ako to student government. So ano ba yung pwede mo lang namang gawing project sa student government? Either um, focus towards the students or focus towards the community around the school. So that's where I learned about like outreaches, doing things together with your classmates and your batchmates to the benefit of the community outside. So that's the first time that I really experienced outreach. When I went to college, I was part of this organization also that we do tutorials every weekend in public school area. So those are my exposure to it. And then natutunan ko na siyang mahalin. So even when now I'm working, hinahanap-hanap ko siya. So that's why we're in
Hanap mo siya. Okay, thank you for sharing your story, Belle. Okay, so let's get on with the topic. JB, shall we?
Sure.
Okay, first question, guys. What was your Yolanda experience? How did you feel when Yolanda hit Philippine shores, specifically in the affected areas?
Ako,
Yeah,
ay
you.
lahat.
Belle, go.
Ikaw muna.
So maybe I'll start. Okay. So actually on the day itself, I didn't think it was that like a big issue, right? Kasi we've been hit by Ondoy, we've been hit by Pablo. So and Yolanda is just one of the typhoons that we will just count 26 times in a year, right? So for me, hindi ko alam that ganun kalaki yung devastation. So I mean, come the next day, that's when we realized that it's really that bad, right? So personally, I wasn't hit. I mean, I live here in Makati, so hindi ako binaha. Walang effect at all. My family in Davao were all safe, so there were no. I wasn't hit, so I feel blessed that I was hit. I wasn't hit. So that's my personal experience. But one thing I remember that during that time in the office, I was the one arranging for offsite events. We were supposed to bring all the IT team here in Manila off to some resort in Batangas and then enjoy and then do business planning, etc. 2 days before that, we needed to cancel because of the upcoming the forecast. Right? There's a big typhoon coming in. So what I remember is that when we shifted in the last minute from making it as a fun event and then we shifted altogether and we created a new plan na medyo outreach yung team. So we did a bazaar, merchandise sale. We went to Villamor Air Base to repack goods, and then we also were doing some brainstorming on what IT systems we can put in place for such a disaster. So we shifted from a fun event to a quite serious and outreach type of event. The one thing that I remember is, and I was glad to see my office mates very open with that change, right? No one complained, bakit nawala yung allocation namin. Instead na itong budget na to napunta to from fun activities, napunta siya to something else. No one complained. Everyone was very appreciative. In fact, we got very good feedback saying like, ang bilis nag-react ng project ng project team with that, and they were very appreciative that we're very much relevant to the time. So that's one thing that I remember during that time.
Actually, tama ka dyan, Bel. I remember na a lot of the companies were canceling their Christmas parties just to
Yeah.
give it to the or donate it to the survivors of Yolanda.
Those
Very
affected.
very nice time if I look back. Ikaw ba, Carlo?
Ako, I was in Baguio the entire time and I felt very guilty that I couldn't help in a very direct way. I was in a digital Filipino event and I was um, teaching bloggers how to do social media at the time. So, ayun, but I was able to help naman in an online context by providing the right hashtags, essentially managing the iVolunteer Facebook page. I don't want to be rude or make light of it, pero nagbubuhay ang iVolunteer page kapag merong bagyong na ganyan. Pero yeah, yun, I helped in that context. Pero after that naman, pumunta ako ng Villamor Air Base after being invited by a friend. I will name him right now because he deserves to be named. His name is Ivan Gatonton. Shout out to Durak. He called me and others, and I answered the call to arms to help. And ayun, basically nagbuhat kami ng mga sako-sako ng relief goods to be delivered there. And it felt really good to do that. Kahit na literally, I felt every muscle in my body is pulled and nagkasakit ako ng 2 araw, pero it was worth it. Because I know na yung effort that I made, napunta sa mga tao doon, and they deserve all the help they could get at the time. That's me. That's my story. JB, ikaw?
Naalala ko yung when you mentioned Villamor Air Base. I was actually sick during that day. I remember Belle and another friend, Christine, who were inviting me to go to Villamor as well to do the offline hatid. But I was really not feeling very well. So, yun. But I felt sad. A few days after, I was in a meeting with several government offices. Nahila kami by one of our partners to help them organize the different operations that is happening, the relief operations, including organizing the volunteers and yun nga, sa offline hatid as the people from Western Visayas are transferred here, how do we receive them and all those. So I was actually, one of my realizations actually was there was a lot of things happening that normal people don't see. Normal citizens don't see, because there's a lot of, I was very happy at the time to see that the government are really doing something. Okay? Maybe hindi pa perfect, but there is some work happening behind the scene. And yun, very nice. Fast forward to the summer of 2014,
1969.
which is here.
Joke lang.
Ha?
Wala.
Ayun, we partner with Gawad Kalinga, yun. I think my concrete contributions are. So, Gawad Kalinga had the Bayani Challenge every year. This 2014, their focus was to help rebuild the homes of those that were affected by Typhoon Yolanda. So we were partnering with them. And together with the rest of the iVolunteer team, including Bell, we went to Ormoc Leyte to help rebuild the houses there. And yung nakakatuwa, when I went there, my thinking was I will be the superhero, right? Na I will bring the hope to the world and help these people that were affected. But when I arrived, I realized na these people are actually very, very hopeful, and parang ako pa yung natulungan nila to give more hope, to have more hope for the country, because regardless of what has happened to them, right? Nawala yung bahay nila or anything else. They are very hopeful that one day it will become better. And they were very happy to receive volunteers because kahit temporary lang mga volunteers, in little ways, these volunteers are helping them to revive their livelihood and their lives.
Yeah.
So yun, yun yung parang touching side of my experience during Yolanda.
Yeah, essentially, Yolanda is a big story about rebuilding and being able to rise again after a big storm. Now, you mentioned, something about making things better, JB, which brings us to our next question. What do you think can we improve on in the future to, I don't know if the right term is prevent, but how do we prevent these sorts of things from happening, and how do we respond, how do we respond during these times of disasters? How do you think would that, would we be able to improve on those things? Bell, go ahead, Bell.
Ano ba?
It's weird.
I, I think one of the most so siguro maybe JB can provide some more information kasi he's been invited along with Hazel and our friends in iVolunteer to some meetings in terms of disaster preparedness, disaster risk management, meetings with the SWD, government, LGUs, etc. Maybe he can provide some input to that. But what we see is that there is a heightened awareness already, so people really don't want to repeat whatever we experienced in Yolanda. I think there's a wake-up call that we realize what we have in terms of preparedness is not enough. So tumaas yung level ng mga tao in terms of what do we need to do to prepare for such a disaster. I think the other thing that I'm realizing is that while we're improving in terms of response, in terms of preparedness, one thing that I don't see yet being done well is coordination. So madami pa rin mga silos in terms of group. This group does this while this group does the same thing, and then they don't talk. So this whole notion of everyone has good motives, everyone has good intent, but there's a lack of direction and focus in terms of work. So sometimes the impact and the effect is not maximized, right? And sometimes they even clash, right? So while the intent is good, sometimes if not directed well, these intents may hinder us from responding immediately or more effectively. So I think the government really needs to play some bigger role in terms of like preparing these groups to work together even before the disaster. Such that pag nangyari yung disaster, they are already working with each other, so there are less issues in terms of coordinating.
Yeah. So it's really more the process rather than the number of volunteers, because we have an unlimited supply of volunteers.
Yeah, never an issue. So that is, I think, never an issue for us on lacking of support. I think that's what as you said, Carlo, there's one story during the Yolanda one story is really the inspiring message and the stories that we hear from people in the affected areas, right? The heroism, the strong spirit that we have in Leyte and Samar and all the islands that were affected. The other story is really how fast and how effective and how like ready people are in Manila and in outside the Philippines to help. So those are the two great stories that we hear from Yolanda, right? One is in terms of the people affected, the other one is the people who are willing to help. And there's really we don't lack in good stories of people willing to help.
Indeed. JB, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, and just to build on what Bell said, for example, no Oplan Hatid, there were actually a lot of debate between the private and the public sector.
Debate.
To move it to Aguinaldo, to move it back to Villamor Air Base. So, which I think should have been more coordinated. And as Ben mentioned, the government really needs to play a more major role here. And I hope in the next typhoon or big calamity as this, I hope we can set aside political agenda,
Oh, hell yeah.
right?
I could not
Just
agree more.
focus on I'm sure we have all the same intent, right? Which is to help the country. But sometimes our own agenda hinders us from working together. But yun, on the other side, as also what has been by Bell, we've been in meetings with different government agencies. And the good news is there are plans. There are more proactive plans now than what we had before. Previously, like parang step by step tayo o natamaan si Manila, okay,
Reactive.
gagawa tayo ng
Okay.
plan sa Manila, natamaan si Tacloban, then we do plans in Tacloban. But now there are more holistic plans. Even before the typhoon comes, there are already planning in terms of what the relief should look like, how the rehabilitation should look like. But again, that's planning, right? So I hope we get into the right execution. So that is something different. But the good news is at least we do have a plan now.
All right. Awesome. That's good news for us. Hopefully, the government pushes through with whatever we're planning or whatever the plans are, or whoever is concerned. JB, do we have any questions from the audience? I guess we can take one or two, and then we can move on to volunteer
Actually,
events.
there's one here. Ang question is, after years and years of having having a typhoon disaster, you think the Filipinos have learned from this experience?
Bell, what do you think? Have they learned?
I think we've learned. So sabi ko nga kanina, there are a few things that we probably should learn more, especially like coordination, right? But I think we've learned. I think what we do see in TV and what we do hear from people is that we are expected to have more. So yung narinig nga namin in one summit, right, on a few organizations related to disaster response. One thing that kept on repeating is that alam natin na parating yung Bagyo 26 times. We already know. We know that we have active volcanoes. We know that we're in the fault line. Ang dami nating
Wow.
experiences of disaster, and yet we never try to learn. My interpretation of that is that hindi talaga siya that we don't learn. It's just that people expect more from us. So we compare ourselves from Japan, right? Si Japan sobrang advanced. They're also in a very
Disaster prone.
Yeah, but we compare ourselves to them. So, which is a good thing, right? In a way, it sounds negative, but it's a good thing that we raise the bar for us, and we don't feel complacent, we don't feel satisfied as long as until we hit that high bar in terms of preparedness. So for me, we learn, except that we put a high bar for us, and I think it's the right way to do it. Yeah.
JB, what do you think? Have we learned?
Well, I do have a slightly different opinion. I do agree that generally we learn, but there's still I mean more for the siguro private sector and individuals. There's still a big group na tend to forget. We learn and we eventually forget. So, yun, a very example na lang sa Marikina, we always hear na yung water level is reaching a critical level, but still people don't want to evacuate. Same as nung yung Mayon, yung pasabog yung Mayon, people didn't want to evacuate. Instead, they wanted to stay at their homes to see how the Mayon volcano will erupt. So, I mean, there's still some people who are a bit stubborn. But in general, I think we're learning. We're not yet there. But hopefully, we move forward.
Yeah, I agree with both your points. We have learned, although some of us haven't, or are very resistant to these kinds of things. I'd like to agree with JB on the point na winarningan na nga sila, hindi pa sila umaalis. So, yun lang. It's just annoying that has to happen and kailangan pang may mangyaring masama. And that's the sad thing about it. We have to learn the hard way pa before we do anything to actually prevent those things from happening. And that's the sad thing. But I guess that's life. All right. Do we have any more questions, JD?
Meron bang one more
Okay, go
for
ahead.
Ben again,
Okay,
since you're
Ben.
our here. Why do you think a lot of people help during disaster and not during any other day?
Oo nga.
JB.
Oo nga. I mean, there are literally people who need help every day. And it's only during these major na merong media coverage that people help. Why is that the case? So is there a problem with
I think
Go ahead.
it I think it links to what JB said a while ago na medyo short-term memory yung Pilipino. They live in the moment. So what I hear, what I see now, what is the urgency now, I act on it. I don't look into like long term. I don't look into the bigger impact in the future, etc. So some of these issues that we need volunteers to tackle, like for example, climate change, environmental degradation, poverty in urban centers. These are these don't seem to be as urgent kasi they're always there. That problem has been there for the past X number of decades. So hindi siya urgent for these people, and it's not in their consciousness. So
Or
I
nakasanayan
think
na?
yeah, if we do shake them, if we do like bother them that this is not business as usual, di ba? This is not what
This could
we
be
should.
better.
This is not what
Uh,
it could be better, and then we put urgency, right? So I think if people feel the urgency that if we don't do this, blah blah blah, the same urgency that they get during a disaster, I think people will respond. So it's just a matter of putting it in front of them and making it real for them. Otherwise, they would just tend to like
Let it
forget
go.
about it, as JB said.
Let it go.
Siguro it's also something to do with something to do with media. Because pag bagyo, and I mean you see it everywhere, right? So people are more aware during that time
Yeah.
on what's the issue, that there's help needed.
I was
But
about
for
to
the
say.
day-to-day tends,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah, I think there,
normal.
I think there is a maybe it's not maybe a
And
problem.
and,
I think it need
yeah, and then there's also that crowd mentality. I think there's also that crowd mentality linked to the media. So na-hype up siya ni media, and then
Right.
people
they want to
tend
participate
to
because
what
of
might
that. They want to be in
yeah,
the spotlight
yeah.
then. But the thing is, I think there really is more of a problem on making people aware of the other everyday problems that we're facing. These disasters, they will come and they will eventually be an everyday kind of thing. So why act when media is just putting the spotlight on that specific thing? Start now, start doing it. Do it every day or every weekend at least. So ayun, that's my take. Do you have any other questions, JP?
Wala naman.
All right, great. Well, that about wraps it up. But before that, I'd want to share one really quick story. And JB, I think you know this as well.
Yun. Sige.
Ayun, so
Can,
it's,
can I, before we jump to your story, Carlo,
Yeah,
can
go
I wrap up lang just so that we end up in a high note
okay, cool.
about this Yolanda?
Sure, man.
So, yun, I was thinking na, yun, we do get disasters. Ayun nga, siguro, I think Philippines is one of the most disaster-prone country. But, I mean, aside from the devastation, I mean, the impact that comes along with this, I think there's a lot of good news that also pops up, right? We do see, yun nga, one is we do see surge of people who really want to volunteer and help. Then we start to see also, maybe we're not yet there as we mentioned earlier, we see collaborations within the country. There are, I would say, better collaborations now within private and public, not yet there, but yes. You also get collaborations international and local, right? So there's a lot of new connections that is being built. Then lastly, there are also very good innovations coming out of this disaster. Like for example, yung when we went to this disaster kind of conference, there was this one guy that was showcasing a bag. It's an emergency bag. At the same time, it's a flotation device. So pag bumaha yung bahay mo, at least meron ka ng salbabida that will save you. There's also this new org. For example, nung Yolanda, we had this Oplan Hatid. It has run for 4 nights, if I'm not mistaken, or more. But after the third and the fourth night, people are starting to wearing out, pagod na. Kasi walang tulugan to eh. It's more or less a 24/7 operation. This one group, which I cannot remember the name, I'm sorry. Yung advocacy naman nila ngayon, since ang dami naman tumutulong eh, but the volunteers themselves needs to be taken care of, else they will not be able to sustain and help the rest of those who need help, right? So yun naman yung advocacy nila. How can we make sure that the welfare of the volunteers are managed or taken care of? Yun. So there are a lot of these innovations. Plus, there are new solutions, new IT websites, and also. And iVolunteer was also a product of disaster, right, from Ondoy. So there are a lot of new ideas that is generated out of this. And with those, I think we will definitely move forward as a nation.
All right. So to wrap the whole thing up, I think, is I want to share the story of a man who travels across the world to do different jobs. And what happened is when he heard about Yolanda, and he actually went into the country and became a Santa Claus. And he literally brought hope to those devastated by that specific storm. And I think that's a good thing. And I think being a volunteer is literally that, being bringers of hope to everyone who needs it. I'm saying that because I don't know how to segue. JP, go ahead. Take it away.
So this guy's name is actually... Ay nako, nakalimutan ko rin. His name is Turner Barr. Okay. So last year, his project was named Operation Save Santa. So you can actually find that in YouTube. Operation Save Santa. And it was a very nice way to celebrate his Christmas. Because he went here, he was trying to see how he can help. Then he realized that these kids that encountered the disaster really needs a little hope. So what he did was to set up a website, get money from the US, donations from his friends all around the world as well. Then he collected the wish list ng mga bata. So ayun, then he basically bought all the things and became the Santa Claus for these kids during the Christmas. And it was very nice. It's a very different way of celebrating, right? It's normally we say Christmas is a season of giving, but normally we give with we share our blessing only within our immediate community, right? Our families and friends. But this guy was extending help or gifts to people who are beyond, people he don't know or he just knew in few weeks. So very nice story. Which is a segue to our topic next week is how can we celebrate differently?
Segwayception.
So yun, I think that's where
Alright.
we're leading to. Okay.
So we're gonna talk about that
So yun,
next week, guys. Yeah, go ahead, JP.
So watch out for that topic. We'll talk more next week.
Yep.
For now, before we wrap up, can I promote our
We've been wrapping a lot of
opportunity?
things up, before we end the podcast.
Okay, sige. Sige. So yun, we do have 4 volunteer opportunities for the weekend, for
Alright.
this week. 2 is from Karinderya ni Mang Urot. So this will happen on November 14, that's a Friday, and November 16, that's a Sunday, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Again, that's at night. Okay. Again, Mang Urot is setting up a soup kitchen for the communities of Quezon City.
Awesome.
Okay. Another one will be with He Cares Foundation. It will be on Saturday, November 15. from 1 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's basically a tutorial which you guys will teach math and English. We do need 18 more volunteers for this. And lastly, we do have a new partner, which is Uplift Community Development Foundation. Okay, they do have every Saturday a program for, they set up a new home for the aged within Taytay Rizal. So every Saturday, they are inviting volunteers to cheer up the lolos and lolas of the shelter. This coming Saturday, they still need 19 volunteers, so hopefully you guys can join.
Awesome. All right.
Right.
Awesome. J Bell, thank you so much for taking the time off the office to join us. Oh yeah, and we almost forgot. Shirts, ladies and gentlemen, you could buy it for 350 pesos. Just contact, I think, Hazel or JB himself. He's wearing the iVolunteer shirt right now. He is showcasing his body. Ladies. And there you go. That's about it. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, please do let us know in facebook.com, twitter.com/iVolunteerPhils. Please subscribe to our channel if you want to support us. Please like and share to support our videos. That's about it, guys. We will see you next time. Have a great week. And dance off. Okay. Cut.